New restrictions on gun use in East County. Why supervisors say the step is needed to prevent wildfires.
All seafood imports from the United States, there's now a 25% tariff that China's put into place as of July 6th.
Caught in a trade war. Local fishermen say they're taking a hit on lobsters they're sending to Asia.
I am a criminal justice reform advocate, and my opponent is not.
Monica Montgomery talks with KPBS about the race for city council in District 4 and why she's challenging her former boss, Myrtle Cole. And the Chargers remember the life of team owner Alex Spanos. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. County supervisors have voted to limit target shooting in East County due to risk of wildfires. They voted 3-2 to ban target shooting near Del Zura. The ban covers a 3-mile area south of State Route 94. Supervisor Diane Jacob is among those who voted for the restrictions.
They've been very frustrated and fear for their safety because of bullets flying by. And although it was mentioned about ducking because bullets fly over your head, I have property in Dearhorn Valley. I've experienced that myself and have reported it to the sheriff.
Last year, a fire in the area burned more than 2,000 acres. It was sparked by a group of target shooters. Supervisors Bill Horn and Kristen Gaspar oppose the shooting ban. Gaspar says it should be up to the federal government because it's federal land. For more than a year, San Diego Unified has been testing the water at schools for lead. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks has the latest on the findings.
Nearly 20 fixtures tested above 15 parts per billion, the EPA's limit for lead content. The district has either fixed the problem or cut off access to those fixtures. Another 225 tested above 5 parts per billion, the standard for bottled water, and the new target San Diego Unified has set for all of its water. Those two have been remediated or blocked off as the district finishes installing filters. Once they're done, Chief Operations Officer Drew Rowlands says the work continues.
We intend to maintain a quality assurance approach where we're doing more random testing just to make sure things are still staying the same.
$45 million of a $3.5 billion bond on the November ballot would go toward improving water quality in schools. The district's previous bond also earmarked money for improved plumbing. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
A federal judge in San Diego is being asked to remove ICE as the lead agency in charge of family reunifications. KPBS border reporter Jean Guerrero has an update on the children who are still separated.
Judge Dana Sabra commended the ACLU and the U.S. for getting so close to, quote, wrapping up family reunifications. But the ACLU says Immigration and Customs Enforcement isn't always providing advance notice before shipping kids back to their parents in Central America. That means the children end up stranded in airports, with their parents sometimes days away in distant villages. Attorney Lee Gallant says the agency flew a 5-year-old boy to Guatemala City without notifying the ACLU or the parents. Gallant asked that the Department of Health and Human Services be in charge of all reunifications that involve flying kids back to Central America, because that agency is being communicative. Government counsel said it would work on it. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
The San Diego City Council wants to take its battle over pension reform to the U.S. Supreme Court. Proposition B was passed by city voters in 2012. It eliminated guaranteed pensions for most new city employees. Last summer, the California Supreme Court found the city violated state labor laws when it passed the measure on the ballot, placed the measure on the ballot without negotiating with city unions first. The council voted 8-1 on Tuesday to appeal the case. Our election coverage continues tonight with a focus on the San Diego City Council. District 4 includes neighborhoods such as Oak Park and Canto and Paradise Hills. KPBS reporter Claire Tragesser interviewed Monica Montgomery, who is challenging City Council President Myrtle Cole.
So, Monica Montgomery, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you used to work for your opponent, Myrtle Cole, but you left her office the same day as she made these controversial statements about police and racial profiling. Can you walk us through what happened that day?
Yes, well, it was, I believe, the week after she had held a town hall about a lot of the police brutality and the shootings that were going on across the nation, but how that reflected what was going on in San Diego. And it did not go too well for her. So when she was at the city council meeting the week after, she made comments about racial profiling and basically, in so many words, said that black people deserve to be profiled because we commit all the crimes. And really, there's not too much to it. Heard the comments, left that day, and turned in my resignation letter the next day.
Okay. And so you and Cole are both Democrats. How do you differ in terms of policies?
Yeah, so one is, of course, criminal justice reform, and how that reform and the law nationwide, statewide, and then on a local level is very important for the members of District 4. That's a very stark contrast that I am a criminal justice reform advocate and my opponent is not. And so I believe that the recommendations that were set forth in the San Diego State University racial profiling report should be implemented by our police department. We also have a difference in policy on some of the economic policies, economic opportunity for residents of District 4. We live in a district now that has, some zip codes have twice the unemployment rate of the entire region. And so it's very important that we have strong economic policies that benefit the residents of District 4.
In terms of the SDSU racial profiling study, I know it had these findings, and then I believe it was Myrtle Cole appointed an advisory board to make some recommendations off of that. Would you have done something differently?
So here's the thing about committees, boards, and commissions at the city. They are, the policies are passed by City Council, and that's who determines how much teeth those committees, boards, and commissions have. What she set up was an escape route to push the study to a committee or board instead of having City Council deal with what was right there in front of them.
And so in terms of economic issues, what are some specific things that you would do differently?
Yeah, so I am a proponent of local hire. Back in September of last year, we did a press conference in front of the Malcolm X Library where solar panels were being installed in the parking lot. And we just did a quick ask of the young men that were working on the job and asked them where they were from. One was from Las Vegas, the other was from Riverside County. And I think it's a travesty that we don't have more local hire provisions in San Diego. I think it's a travesty that I can look across the street and see homeless people living in the creek, and somehow we're not making the connection that residents in San Diego need middle-class careers and good paying jobs in order to live here and have a quality of life. And so making that connection is very important to me, for the residents of District 4 and for the entire city of San Diego.
One of the criticisms we've heard about Cole from her constituents is that she's maybe put downtown interests above her district. I reviewed her calendar for the past year, and she had one of the lowest numbers on average of weekend events in her district of all the council members. And so here she is addressing that with the Union Tribune's editorial board.
Again, I'm council president. I'm all over the place. Lori Zapp is just a council member. Vivian is just a staff member. I'm a council president that represents the entire city of San Diego, and that's what I was doing, as well as my district. So it was a little difficult to get out there when I had council meetings that I had to chair. Lori Zapp does not chair council meetings. I do.
Do you think she has a valid argument?
I think the community deserves representation that is present. I think that's why we won the primary, because she is not present in our community and we deserve better. And so if we as city council members take on additional positions, community should always come first. And with me as city council member, my community will come first.
If you were elected to the council and were given the opportunity to be council president, would you take that opportunity?
Definitely not going to speculate on anything. I'm looking forward to November 6th, and we're working hard. We have 33 days left, and that's what we're focused on.
Well, Monica Montgomery, thanks so much for speaking with me.
Thank you.
The full interview with Monica Montgomery can be seen at kpbs.org. Myrtle Cole's campaign has not responded to repeated requests for an interview. The mayor of Carlsbad is running for re-election against a first-term city councilwoman. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John talked with both of the candidates.
Carlsbad voters turned out en masse for a mayoral forum this week, pitting current mayor Matt Hall against city council member Corey Schumacher. Hall has served on the council since the early 1990s and was re-elected mayor in 2014 unopposed. Schumacher was elected to the city council 2 years ago following the contentious referendum Measure A that defeated a large retail development proposed for the strawberry fields next to a Carlsbad lagoon. Mayor Hall, who supported that development, is running on his record of growth management and community consensus.
My vision of tomorrow is what I call my 2050 plan. It's working with the community, just like we did back in 1994, what we did with growth management. What do we want to be? What do we want to look like in 2050? It's about our children and our grandchildren and giving them the same opportunities that we've been able to enjoy and working as a community to get there.
Corey Schumacher is running on a platform of more transparency and more community involvement. She says the city cannot rely on developer fees forever, and she proposes a new source of revenue for the future.
So through instituting community choice energy, we would get a point where the net revenues would come back into the city in order to have local renewable energy projects. And those local energy renewable projects would actually be the source over time through a utility scale energy storage facility where we would be generating enough energy to sell the excess energy on the open market. And there's a system like this in South Australia that is bringing in $800,000 every 2 days, and it's 1/3 of the size that I'm contemplating for North County.
The two candidates ended the forum with mutual respect and smiles, but they have very different visions for the future of Carlsbad. In North County, Allison St. John, KPBS News.
This week, iNewsSource is following the money with a special series on ballot measures. Tonight, reporters Jill Castellano and Brad Racino focus on the Mission Valley Stadium measures.
After the Chargers left in early 2017, San Diego was left with 166 acres of prime real estate in Mission Valley that's just sitting there, and it's a big money drain for the city. Taxpayers are still paying down $31.6 million in stadium debt through 2027. Now these two groups, SoccerCity and SDSU West, say their proposal is going to be better for the city.
Okay, first, can you talk about SDSU West?
That's Measure G. It would turn the land into a western campus for San Diego State University. That includes new administrative buildings, a river park, some low-income housing, and a new stadium for the school's football team.
And why does SDSU want this land?
Here's Kim Kilkenny, who's one of the supporters of SDSU West, talking to KPBS.
This initiative gives San Diego State land upon which they can grow. And when that occurs, that is going to educate our population and increase our economy because it's going to produce better jobs, higher incomes, more businesses.
Okay, so that's SDSU West. What about the other proposal?
That's Measure E, SoccerCity. Like SDSU West, SoccerCity plans to include a river park, retail, and housing units. But its big selling point is a soccer stadium for a major league team.
But there's no guarantee a team will actually come here.
Right. If it did, it could encourage more commerce in Mission Valley. The SoccerCity campaign says they're also not going to use any taxpayer dollars to buy the stadium. Here's Michael Stone, one of the biggest pro-SoccerCity voices.
But our true north in this remains the delivery of a compelling combination of economic tax benefits to the city, a long sought-after river park, and creating sports and entertainment-related assets for the city we all call home.
So let's switch gears here and talk about the money. Who's backing these campaigns?
The biggest SoccerCity funders are from FS Investors, which is a private investment company. Michael Stone, the president, has donated almost $3 million. And Nick Stone, a partner at FS Investors, has donated more than $250,000. And they've donated more than 40% of the $7.4 million that the SoccerCity campaign has. So Measure E's funding is coming from a few wealthy donors.
Okay, and what about SDSU West?
That campaign has raised $2.4 million. Its major donors include former San Diego City manager Jack McGrory and Fred Luddy, a billionaire who runs a software company. They each gave at least $150,000.
So it sounds like the donors to SDSU West aren't giving as much money as the donors to SoccerCity.
Right, but there are more of them. A lot of them are local developers and real estate executives like Evans Hotels and Corky McMillan CEO, Mark McMillan. And there's a third campaign.
No.
Yes. This is a campaign specifically opposing the SoccerCity plan. It's funded by two big housing developers that own land in Mission Valley, HG Fenton and Sudbury Properties. They've raised $4 million.
To be transparent, SDSU West supporters McGrory and Evans Hotels are supporters of iNewsSource and KPBS. Sudbury is also an iNewsSource supporter.
And we can expect to see a lot of spending from these campaigns up until Election Day on November 6th.
There's a lot of money behind these campaigns, and this also reminds me one last thing. Jill, can you brag for a second about what you and our team have built at iNewsSource?
I can. If you go to data.inewssource.org, you can search through more than $100 million in political campaign fundraising and spending in the city of San Diego since 2007. It includes ballot measures like SDSU West and SoccerCity, plus candidates running for city office.
Tomorrow, iNewsSource will look at a ballot measure that could dramatically change county elections. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. The owner of the LA Chargers, Alex Spanos, has passed away. Spanos was 95 and had suffered from dementia in recent years. He was the son of Greek immigrants and an Air Force veteran, and he was successful in real estate before buying the San Diego Chargers in 1984. His leadership helped the Chargers reach the Super Bowl, and he brought the big game to San Diego. Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and former President George W. Bush are among those who issued statements today remembering Spanos.
Judy Woodruff tonight on the NewsHour. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, surprises everyone by announcing she's resigning. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Lobster season is officially underway in San Diego. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says even though lobsters are being caught off our coast, most of them are being sold to Asia.
These are San Diego caught spiny lobsters. The local shellfish are probably different than lobsters you're used to seeing.
Here in the U.S., people think more of Maine lobsters with the claws as what they're in their mind, what they picture as lobster.
David Shulkin is the owner of Apex Wild Seafood in San Diego, which sells spiny lobsters to retailers across the world.
The average size, like I said, is about 1 1/4 pounds. This is probably a 1 1/2 pound lobster. This is about a 3-pound lobster. Even a lot of people local don't even really know we have this species of lobsters because not that much of it gets sold here locally.
Shulkin says that's because Asian countries like China are willing to pay extra for spiny lobsters.
Probably 99% goes to Asia and 1 or 2% stays here in the U.S. Traditionally, this is the kind of lobster that they've ate in Asia.
Shulkin says China has been a major buyer of San Diego lobsters for the last decade. But locally, spiny lobsters can be hard for consumers to find, partially due to their cost.
Retail price for spinies is around $30 a pound, and retail for Maine lobster somewhere between $12 and $15 a pound.
Seaside Market in Cardiff by the Sea has been buying spiny lobsters for years.
We like to embrace the local product, during the season, October through March. It's important to support the local fishermen and an industry that's just right off our coast here.
Seaside Market also carries the traditional Maine lobsters. While they have big claws, Maine lobsters have much smaller tails than spiny lobsters. Recently, all lobsters from the U.S. were slapped with tariffs from China.
All seafood imports from the United States, there's now a 25% tariff that China's put into place as of July 6th.
In return, prices for lobsters off San Diego docks are down 25% compared to last year. Shulkin says he hopes lower wholesale prices will attract more local buyers.
We're hoping that Americans can develop the taste for it and be willing to pay a higher price for a better quality product, and also support our local fishermen.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Good evening. I hope you had a wonderful day today. The weather really not bad. It is a bit cooler than it has been, but temperatures are right around average. We've been a bit warm, so now we're back to where we should be. Taking a look across the county, it's quiet. There really isn't much going on here. And tonight, Oceanside temperatures will dip down to 56, Borrego Springs at 59, Mount Laguna cooler, 44 degrees, and in Chula Vista, right around 58. So I would call that jacket weather. You might need to throw on the jacket if you're heading out tonight. Temperatures right here in the metro, 62. You'll notice those clouds building, and then by the afternoon tomorrow, plenty of sunshine. Our typical weather. It's going to be beautiful. Look how chilly it is. Yikes, we have a big dip in the jet stream. That's allowing this cool air to come rushing down from the north, and it's dropping our temperatures. Again, for us, we are right around average, so things are looking pretty good. It's going to remain sunny across the county. Tomorrow, Borrego Springs at 86. Mount Laguna struggling, won't even get into the 60s. And Ramona at 74. San Diego reaching 72 degrees. And here's the look for late week. Well, the jet stream, it is far down to the south, right on top of us. So we will continue to see this cooler pattern. So temperatures are going to be in the low 70s much of this week, and then by Sunday, jumping up to 74, staying sunny. Inland will be in the 70s until Friday. Then we warm right back up to the 80s. It's going to stay sunny and then drip back down to the 70s. And in the mountains, we're in the 50s. We'll jump up to the 60s, but a pretty cool pattern here with our lows in the 40s and in the deserts. Look at that, a nice break. It's in the 80s for our highs and our lows in the 50s and 60s, so much cooler. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Back to you.
This past weekend, birders all over the world grabbed their binoculars and headed out for a collective bird count. KPBS producer Nico Will tagged along with some local bird enthusiasts who were looking for their own big day.
The Cornell Lab of Ornithology has held a global big day in May for the past 4 years, where they encourage birders everywhere to go out and record what they see on their app, eBird. But this year, for the first time, the Cornell Lab added a second big day of the year in October. As a budding birder, I wanted to join in. So I got in touch with a couple local folks who, it turns out, were interested in something specific. A rare sight in San Diego, a pinyon jay. A flock had reportedly been seen in the Laguna Mountains earlier in the week. So, bright and early Saturday morning, we headed up to see if we could catch a glimpse.
Is that Richard right up there crossing? The last time pinyon jays were seen in this area was in 2012.
Richard Grebe is a local bird authority.
They're extremely rare in San Diego County, and now there's like 200 of them. And so there are probably that many birders that are going to come up and try to see them.
The flock is here.
We believe it's because they're the drought or possibly the fires, and they've been displaced and they're looking for food.
Our hopeful group started down the path off Sunrise Highway near mile marker 19. Early on in our trek, our group ran into a birder who did see them, estimating that there were more than 100.
That's how far away they were. Yeah. But we heard them before we ever saw them.
But as we continued on, hope began to fade for us. Jean Dittmeyer has never seen a pinyon jay and really wanted to add it to her list.
It's the thing about birds. They don't do what you want them to do. They do what they want to do. And we have to
something
chase
just flew in.
Yeah, there's a... I just saw a meadowlark.
Did you really?
Yeah, wait a minute. He's out here.
We did see lots of birds. Thanks to my knowledgeable companions, I saw acorn woodpeckers, an American kestrel, a Steller's jay, Oregon juncos, a raven.
A bunch of western bluebirds sitting on the wires.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that.
But it was hard not to feel for the members of our group who left disappointed.
Maybe we'll see it up ahead. Maybe we'll be driving on the way home and see it.
Yeah, and we'll slam on the brakes.
Yep. That's it. Didn't see it.
Remember Richard? We left him near a house past a field with the bluebirds, circling back in hopes of catching the jays in the other direction. We didn't catch up with them, but he did. I got a text from Jean after I got home. They showed up in the same spot where we were an hour before. And according to eBird, along with Richard, 9 other birders reported seeing pinion jays in that area. And while we all had a good time on Saturday, I guess for some of us, it just didn't happen to be our big day. Nico Will, KPBS News.
Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on Morning Edition. Home prices are up, but overall sales are down. What does the trend mean for the overall strength of the housing market? And on Midday Edition, more of our coverage in the race for City Council. We'll hear from Chris Cate and Tom Howe, who are competing in District 6. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.